4 years ago, I had the opportunity to be in front of 50 business leaders from Uruguay that came to visit us in Silicon Valley. And we talked about a wide range of topics that were technology innovations of the day and insights that I had from some of the technology players that I had been involved in. I happened to run our tech strategy and architecture business at the time, which was a 1,200 person business, $500 million P&L. And it was just a wonderful dialogue with the team. Now, 4 years later, I have a different chapter to tell you and share with you, which is, I was looking for something very interesting to do. And my CEO asked me 4 years ago to figure out what could Deloitte do with Alphabet Google unencumbered, right? Just get underneath it and think about it. I've been at Deloitte 29 years. One of my most exciting things is to be at the intersection of Alphabet, Google, and Deloitte worldwide. And when I think about the power of the partnership of those two enterprises and all of the assets and people that can come together in any respective industry to solve some of the world's most important problems, that is the dream job. And my comment to all of you is you too can be at the intersection of what you do and Alphabet Google to advance your collective agenda. So that's my challenge and my hope for all of you. I guess the first and most important thing to think about is bringing a strategic mindset and understanding what they're doing, and then an anthropological mindset. And anthropology is really important because anthropology is the study of cultures, and just like Uruguay has an amazing culture, or we have an amazing team culture, well, guess what? Alphabet, Google has an amazing story and corporate culture. And when you put that anthropological hat on and investigative mindset, you start to understand how do you as an outsider become accepted, right? And the goal is, and that's why we've been successful, is we wanted to help them with their ambitions. My whole team has a saying: when you're spending time with Alphabet Google every day, you start to see the future in real time. And that's a very powerful statement, right? To be able to see the future in real time. It's not that hard for you to do your homework to start to see the future, or your future, or your company's future, or your country's future in real time. Sundar, who was not the CEO at the time, but he was sort of the designate CEO from Larry Page, he talked about the fact that they were a $90 billion business. Fast forward a year later, they were a $110 billion business. Fast forward a year later, $136.8 billion. Fast forward a year later, 4 years in, $162 billion. So for me, where I am at Deloitte, 175-year history, it's a $45-50 billion business at Deloitte globally, 181 countries, 325,000 people. Google grew an entire Deloitte in any two of the following 4 years. And that is an astounding fact just to digest, right? And then secondly, and very importantly, if you look at any one of the last 3 years, their investment in capital expenditure and R&D, research and development, was roughly 45 to 50 billion in each of the last 3 years. So that means in any of the last 3 years, they have been invested an entire Deloitte globally. So the reason why it's important to me and to us in Deloitte is the same reason why it should be important to all of the leaders that are part of this session, which is this is a juggernaut that is changing the face of the planet as we know it at a scale that we've never seen before. So within Google Cloud, just the Google Cloud piece, the platform piece is incredible. You have Google Cloud within Google, within Alphabet, 3 nested holding companies. If I think about Google Cloud, that's a growth opportunity. And 4 years ago, it was a $3 billion business. They've yet to disclose what it was for the full year 2020. Well, let's call it anywhere from 12 to $15 billion run rate business. So they're growing that business very aggressively. So within Google Cloud, just the Google Cloud piece, the platform piece is incredible. One of the simplest ways to think about how Alphabet Google could impact you is how are you using Alphabet Google today? And the reality is we use, probably you've used 2 or 3 of their products just in the last 24 hours in a meaningful way. And you need to kind of really think about what did it mean for you to use that product? And what are the kinds of things that when you play it forward, what does that enable Alphabet Google to do at a much broader context? Because you're one of, billions of users in that product every day. They have 9 products with 1 billion users monthly that are active. And so when you think about that and how that impacts what you're doing in your geo, in your, whether it's a city, country, continent, it's astounding. Alphabet has something called an MBU. It's a team, NBU, next billion users, right? And so when you look at publicly disclosed $10 billion that they're investing in India, well, there's a reason for that. And when you look at all of what they talk about in emerging markets, like, the continent of Africa, there's a reason for that, because those are the next, billions of people that will come online. And when they come online, they have value in how they participate on it, just like you have value every day. So it's very important to think about, how do I use these products and what is that data being used for? You are the product, right? When you type all that stuff in, it creates a data source that's important. When you start to think about how people use both Google Maps and Waze, and that all of that data is collected as a data source, it's one of the most invaluable data sources on the planet. The important thing for people to appreciate is Google makes its money based on whatever you type into the number 1 and number 2 search engines in the world. The number 1 is Google search, the number 2 is YouTube. And YouTube, by the way, is far more sticky and far more insightful around the things that we care about. So the fact that I've got a guitar there, and the fact that over COVID, I've spent an inordinate amount of time looking up different chord progressions and ways of playing, clearly Google and YouTube now knows more about what I care about in terms of my passions, which are cooking, photography, guitar, skiing, because I look up all this stuff. And as you type that stuff in, it allows them to curate that data in a compliant way to corporations that want to have access to you. And you look at us all in the last 11 months, we are spending far more time in front of these screens than we are driving on highways, reading papers, and all those, watching traditional TV, right? So it's very important to know the macro trend around digital advertising is changing in ways that are very important, and in a very positive way. You as an enterprise leader should be able to get to your customer segments, or people that want the goods and services you provide. You have an opportunity to get to them in a way that you never have before. So again, Google Cloud within Google, which is the 800-pound gorilla that's driven largely by search, but even YouTube gets exciting, right? So YouTube, I mentioned how sticky it is. How crazy is it? I have he was 9 when we started, but now he's 13, and my daughter is now 11, and I teased them way back when. There was a kid who was 7 years old that was making $25 million a year on YouTube by opening up toys, and previewing those toys. But the reality is there's a whole new economy around influencers and around how the world is working in that economy around influencers. And so, again, whatever your business is in Uruguay, understanding who's influencing those businesses, both, you have an opportunity as a company to put what you want out there, but there are other people that are going to pick up your company or your product and review it, think about it, talk about it, whatever the case may be. And one influencer can make a massive difference on the success of your business, whether it's enterprise or consumer goods. At the Alphabet level, what's really exciting to me is the revenue from, call it 12 companies that sit up top. They generate less than $1 billion in revenue, and they operate at many billions of dollars loss, which means that these are moonshot companies. These are companies that will change the future in their respective categories if Alphabet has anything to say about it, which is obviously their goal. And I'll give you examples. So Waymo is my favorite example, because I've been in a Waymo enabled car. I've spent time with some of the executive team. And when you start to, again, do your homework, you realize that Waymo has the most miles driven and the most scenario analytics done on top of the actual miles driven. And the reason why they're doing that is they're trying to build the best mousetrap for autonomous movement of any vehicle. I like to remind people that Google was 6th in the search space, and that worked out well for them because they focused on one thing, which was search. And I would tell you, in autonomous vehicles, Waymo is an example of search forever ago, right? So when we think about the economy in Uruguay and the movement of people and things, whether it's consumer driven or business driven, Waymo will have a profound impact on every single one of us individually in our countries and the world writ large, 100%. There are other companies like Verily and Calico that are healthcare oriented companies. And what's amazing about that, and Google in the health space is one of the things that I get most excited about, right? I spent 25 years of my life raising money to hopefully end a terrible disease called multiple sclerosis. And now working with Google, I'm starting to see ways that my business life and my personal passion to end multiple sclerosis are coming together, and we can do amazing things around analytics. One of my favorite quotes is the head of the National Institute of Health in the United States, Dr. Francis. He said the cure for cancer is already here. It's in the data. We just have to access it in a better way. And I love that, because the idea that we all can be working with some of these technology giants, leveraging the technologies that they have available to make humankind better, that's a wonderful thing to be thinking about. So if I think about Verily and Calico again at those bet spaces, they are both very focused in the healthcare arena. You also have Wings, which is exciting, right? So in COVID, you have one of our largest retailers and pharmacies partnering with Wings, which is an Alphabet company, to think about how do we drive the delivery of goods to individuals in a more thoughtful way. You already have examples, all publicly known, where fast food delivery is happening in Australia with Mexican food as an example, right? So this is not, it may sound far-fetched, but it's happening already. So to start to think about what are the ramifications for your individual businesses around whether it's autonomous vehicles, daisy training tractor trailers, or Wings drone delivery of certain things. And you almost have to look at each piece part to understand, hey, that's fascinating. They're doing amazing things in a specific space. How is it relevant to me? How is it relevant to my business, my customer, my country, my school? The reality is we need to be wickedly aware of what's going on around us. And we need to be very in tune to the mega companies, the digital platform companies that are changing things at a size and scale that is unparalleled in the history of business, the history of humankind. And there's an excitement to that, because if you harness it for good and for the things that are possible, we will solve some of the world's most complex problems in ways that they were impossible to solve before. And when I think of the positive side of big tech and what big tech will do and can do and should do with all of your help and my help, it's that we will have the opportunity to impact individuals, businesses, cultures, countries, continents, and the world at large in ways that solve for important things, solve for diseases, solve for climate change, solve for inequity, solve for supply chains that are inefficient and ineffective. These are ambitious things to tackle, and we will do it together.